In the midst of the Great Depression, a pair of out-of-work circus performers named Doc and Amelia Farmer started a rag cleaning business called Acme Industrial Laundry Company. In 1959, their grandson Richard Farmer expanded the business into uniform rental and cleaning supplies, creating Cintas, one of America's great companies. While in high school, Richard's son Scott had helped around the business, but after graduating from Miami University in 1981, the independent-minded Scott began searching for jobs outside of the family business.
And I said to Dick, Dick, I really think Scott should come to work for Cintas. If something ever happened to you, Scott would be thrown into Cintas in a very significant role and know nothing about it. And I think it'd be a big mistake not to have him in the company so that he can get to know me, can get to know the business. And Dick agreed with that, and so we hired him in 1981 as a management trainee.
Scott started on the ground floor of the business, worked his way up, did everything. I mean, no job was beneath him.
With dedication and strategic vision, Scott worked his way up to the position of Vice President of the National Account Division, Rental Division Group President, and eventually Chief Operating Officer. Throughout this time, he had worked closely with his father and with then Cintas CEO Bob Kohlhepp. In 2003, Kohlhepp announced that he would be stepping down as CEO.
And I went to Dick and I said, I think we should put Scott in the job.
Scott really took the company to the next level.
For the next 18 years, he would lead Cintas and its 40,000 employees through remarkable growth, complicated tech integration, and the unprecedented challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic.
When he stepped into the role, the vast majority of the revenues came from uniform services. And he basically led the company into first aid and safety, cleaning products and services and mats and all sorts of business services that surrounded that core business.
Scott put together a playbook for the company that they still follow today, where they go into a market, start small, buy somebody small, and outshine all the competition, and over time win market share everywhere.
And he took Cintas from about $2.5 billion in sales to over $10 billion in sales.
In 2016, Scott became chairman of the board of Cintas. After 18 years of leading the company, Scott retired as CEO in 2021. Today, he continues to serve as executive chairman.
And as executive chairman, he's still very much involved in this strategic vision and direction for the company.
He's also a managing owner of American professional soccer team, FC Cincinnati.
Scott, with a handful of other key people in town, brought MLS soccer to Cincinnati.
Scott and the rest of the Farmer family have shared their great success with the Cincinnati area and beyond through the Farmer Family Foundation.
Scott has been behind the scenes, philanthropy-wise, in many situations you'll never know it. He wants to share his success with others, but he doesn't want any credit for it.
Any big philanthropic effort that goes on in the city, the Farmer Foundation is usually involved. And Scott is one of the key people involved in making those decisions. He just recently, through the Farmer Foundation, funded a major project at Coney Island for the symphony.
They started Accelerate Great Schools. They have made major contributions to a number of the hospitals in the area. They've been the lead donor to Miami University, done a lot in the area of Parkinson's research and cancer research.
He's a visionary. He's willing to take risks, calculated risks, but take risks. And he sees things in the future much as his father did.
Scott is driven, and he wants to do the best thing possible for his company, for his family, for his friends, but for his people who worked for him and with him.
And when you think about values, you think about constantly striving to do the right thing. And I think that was two things that allowed Scott to be very successful.
Scott's engagement in our region has been an amazing journey. Please join me in welcoming 2025 Hall of Fame inductee and Executive Chairman of the Cintas Board, Scott Farmer.
I know this looks like a big stack of paper, but that's because the font is so big, so I can read it without my readers on. First of all, thank you everyone for being here tonight, and Curtis and Jeff, thank you for hosting the event here. I got to tell you, I am profoundly humbled and honored standing here tonight as an inductee into the Greater Cincinnati Business Hall of Fame. And I have to start by thanking the Junior Achievement Organization for your continued commitment to celebrating business leadership and preparing young people for success. I'd also like to thank you very much for including me in this distinguished group tonight. Thank you. I think you know that we don't get a chance to see these videos before the event tonight. And before I go any further, and so I don't forget later, I want to thank the people that were in that video, primarily for all the nice things that you said about me. So a special thanks to Bob Colhap, John Barrett, Rick Roding, Todd Schneider. Those guys have been great friends of mine, mentors, and really great business associates of mine for many, many years. To my family especially, I want to say thank you. My three kids sitting down here with me, Kaylee, Sari, and Zach, I love you. I'm proud of all of you. To my parents, Dick and Joyce Farmer, you were such great role models for my sisters and I as we were growing up. My dad, Dick Farmer, who's no longer with us, is also an inductee in the Business Hall of Fame, and I know that he'd be very proud if he could be here tonight. Now, my mom, Joyce, she is with us tonight. Raise your hand, Mom. Mom did so much to raise us as Dad was out building his business, and there's no way that my sisters and I can ever thank her enough for all that she did for us when we were growing up. My wife, Mary, she's also here with me tonight. Mary's been my rock. She's been my supporter over all these years. You know, we all go through trials and tribulations, and that's what happens in a long career, but Mary's been with me every step of the way, and I don't think I could have done it without her. When Mary and I first met, I was just this young guy. You saw some of the pictures here. Man, I can't believe we found those pictures, but I was working for this little uniform company in Cincinnati, and neither of us could have imagined the journey that we'd be making along with Cintas. When I started, Cintas was this small, private, family-owned company with revenues of about $40 million. I think we had 7 operations, very small operations, mostly around the Midwest. Maybe a total of 70 trucks on the road, and 500, maybe 500, what we call employee partners at Cintas. And partners at Cintas, that's what we call each other when we work there. It's because everybody in the company, and I mean everybody, owns stock in the company through an employee stock ownership plan, which makes all of us partners in the company, and I'm proud of that. Today, as I look at the company, Cintas is a Fortune 500 company with revenue over $10 billion, over 500 operations across North America, somewhere around 16,000 trucks on the road every day, and over 50,000 Cintas partners. And for me, to have had a front row view of that growth, it's been truly astounding and something that I'm very proud to have witnessed from a close up front ringside seat, and to have been involved in all of that growth. So business is all about people, right? So as I look back on my career, particularly the 18 years that I served as CEO at Cintas, and try to put into words what that was like, the best example that I can think of is Sparky Anderson, who was the manager of the Cincinnati Reds during the Big Red Machine era. If you don't know who Sparky Anderson was or who the Big Red Machine was, you got to Google it, because that Reds team was arguably one of the best baseball teams in the history of the sport. They really, really were that good. I can just picture Sparky Anderson sitting down in his desk at Riverfront Stadium, looking at his lineup, trying to figure out the batting order and all that stuff on game day. But when he got done with that, you just have to imagine that he picked it up and he looked at it and the sheer talent that he had on that team, and he said to himself, boy, I really think we're going to win today. Well, I got to tell you, That's how I felt as the CEO of Cintas. We had then and still have today a lineup like the Big Red Machine. I knew that whatever the problems of the day were, no matter how significant they were, and every business faces significant problems over time, that we were going to win more than our fair share of the games that we played. And as a CEO of a company, that's a great feeling. So I have one last group of people that I want to thank tonight, and that's all of the Cintas partners that I've worked with over the last 44 years throughout the entire organization. I want to thank you for your hard work, your dedication to making Cintas the company that it is today, and I certainly wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for all of you. Thank you, partners. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And love and honor.